in response to me saying we can't get offended by things, here's a perfect example why I can like somebody and D.L. Hughley, right? This guy named David. Let me make sure I got the name right. I don't want to mess this dude's name up. Out of respect, I just want to. So this week, this guy David Lucas, yes, David Lucas. So he's a comedian, and he's not well known with my fan base. He has his fan base. So he kind of came up with the Kill Tony, Austin, Joe Rogan crew, but he's a black guy. So anybody knows Kill Tony and that crew, they go for shock value. There's a tragic event, a plane crash, anything. He made a joke about George Floyd. Then people got mad, and even DL got mad at him. He was like, he said, what did DL say? DL called out black. DL basically said, I'm going to misquote it. Anyways, DL basically said there's a difference between the joke and stupidity. And all these urban black web YouTube pages and social media pages, they picked up and they're like, this guy went into George Floyd and he should be canceled, which is not going to happen, by the way. It's the biggest falsehood out there. He's not going to get canceled. And did he go too far with the joke? And I'm going, look, when you go to a comedy club, anybody out there, research who you're seeing, because you got to know this guy, George Floyd, not George Floyd, I'm sorry, David Lucas, talking about George Floyd. That's what he does. He does shock humor. He goes for the darkest shit and talks about it. And this is where I disagree with DL. I think whether I like the joke or not, it's not for me to say. That's what he does. There's people out there who want to hear shit like that. And I always say, man, it doesn't matter who your audience is. Just find an audience that you enjoy performing in front of that enjoy you. And I think it's only helping this guy's career in the end. People like that stuff. And DL went off on him. Similar to when Godfrey went off on Ari Shaffir when he made a Kobe joke after Kobe died, not realizing that's what that guy did. That guy just takes the darkest shit when people die and he makes a joke about it, which I don't particularly like. I think there has to be a kind of almost statute of limitations, let some time go by. I remember Whitney Houston died, and I was on stage 3 days later, and I had something I thought, and I go, I'm just going to let it go. Not enough time has gone by yet. But, Godfrey went off on him. And, DL's going off on this guy. And I just think, for me, being a comedian, and we all want this, anything goes on stage. Anything. And if you don't like it, don't go see that person. But as me as a comedian, I don't have to like what you're talking about, but I will defend you till the end for your right to say it. That's just me. So there's this guy, David Lucas, it's not for me to say that I like the George Floyd joke or not. And just be honest, I didn't like the joke. Now, what I did like was some of his put-downs on the people that was leaving on their outfits. That was hysterical, but some people were so mad at him they couldn't even see that part of the joke. So I just think I don't agree with DL in this instance. That's what I'm saying. I can disagree and still be cool with you. And me and DL, when we see each other, we could talk about it. I didn't agree with Godfrey when he talked about going off on Ari Shaffir because he made the Kobe joke. And I'm just going, we can't be mad. That's what we do. That is what we do. I love being in the audience and seeing somebody, whether it's an open mic guy or one of my openers, just say something dark. And I'm like, oh. It's just how can you say that? Look, if I die tragically, you all better be making fun of me. If I get mauled by a bear, you guys better be like, that figure Gary hangs out with all these black people and ends up dying in the whitest way possible. He got mauled by a bear. And hopefully it's a black bear. That's if it's a black bear, then they never like me could make fun of me like, yeah, you talk about black people, but you ain't gonna talk about no black bear. I'm just saying, you better be at my funeral roasting me about the darkest shit that I've done. That's what we do, baby. That's what I remember. I'm not gonna call no names out, but when a comedian passed away a few years ago, a couple comedians called me, and one of the comedians made a joke immediately. The guy had been dead like 6 hours. And I went, oh, my God. Look at the phone. And he goes, sorry, man, that's how I deal with death. I go for the darkest shit. And I was like, oh, it was funny. And I will never say who the comic was. I'll never see the comic. I'm going to leave that between me and that comic. But it was so dark and ugly. But I was just like, oh, but that's what we do. That is what we do. So, Godfrey, DL, I just disagree with you on getting mad at another comedian.